7 spine-chilling cemetery encounters exposed. We discovered sinister secrets among the graves. The sun was setting behind the crooked trees, turning the sky blood red as Sarah and Lily stumbled upon their new home, a quaint little house that was suspiciously close to the old cemetery. The peaceful vibe quickly wrapped around them, a veil of charm hiding something darker beneath. But it was too long before whispers crept into their lives, tales spun in the diner, where sleepless bodies gathered over endless coffee, gorging on the gossip that dripped from every corner. They say, one waitress leaned in, eyes wide, that shadows move among the graves at night and pets go missing all the time. Just look at that graveyard. I wouldn't walk there after dark. Others exchanged knowing glances, their voices lowering, like the weight of the air pressed down upon them. The sinister possibilities ebbed and flowed like the murky depths of autumn air. Sarah had dismissed it all at first as pure absurdity, nothing but the ramblings of bored townsfolk. After everything she'd been through, the divorce, the upheaval, she needed peace. Lily had begun doodling strange images, creatures creeping amongst graves. They visit me, Mommy. She'd giggled, innocent as could be. They tell me secrets. But every time Sarah saw those sketches, her heart would race. Was her daughter's imagination a little too wild? Each night as she worked late shifts at the diner, the unease settled in, tendrils of anxiety wrapping tightly around her heart. Frantic whispers would weave through the night, muffled screams that made her skin crawl. It couldn't be true at first. But when whispers of a local historian with ties to the cemetery reached her, skepticism began to fade. What if he wasn't just a storyteller? What if he was one of them? Sarah, her friends pleaded one night, their faces etched with concern. You've got to keep Lily safe. The cemetery, it's got strange connections. Their words burrowed into her mind, making her uneasy as sleep eluded her. A darkness drew near, pushing aside the thin veil of trust she had in her new neighbors. That night, a storm raged, rain pounding ferociously against the ground. Sarah's fear became unbearable. She had to find out what was going on. Gritting her teeth, she clutched a flashlight and slipped out into the chaos, heart pounding like a drum. As the iron gates creaked open, shadows danced wildly, eager to greet her in the darkness. Amongst the gravestones, she felt a pulse, a lurking presence that chilled her to the bone. Suddenly, an unmarked crypt broke through the rain and fog, standing ominously before her. It throbbed with a strange energy. Goosebumps prickled her arms. Just as she was about to step closer, a ferocious rustling erupted behind her. Mommy, they're calling for us. Lily's voice hit her like a brick. She spun around and, in the pale glow of her flashlight, saw figures blurred and unnatural awaiting her in the dark. Every breath twisted in her chest, panic unfurling like a gnarled vine. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Cloaked in darkness, they advanced slowly, looming closer, ancient eyes piercing the veil of reality. Dread clawed at her insides, stealing her breath away. No! She screamed, torn between escape and the need to know. The weight of the truth loomed heavy, the cemetery whispering secrets that could devour them whole. Would she uncover what lay within the crypt, or would they become another tale told in hushed tones over coffee? The answer bore down on her, a chilling reality that begged to be faced. Would they unravel the mystery before the cemetery claimed them too? Lily giggled, a sound that cut through the suffocating tension like a knife. They want to play. She stepped forward, oblivious to the dark fluttering shapes that hovered just outside the reach of her flashlight's beam. Don't move! Sarah shouted, her voice trembling. Every ounce of courage she had drained away, replaced with primal instinct to protect her daughter. The figures glided closer, their forms distorting in and out of focus, as if the darkness seized them, reshaping their every feature into something grotesque. "Mommy, look!" Lily pointed, her small finger shaking in delight. "Get back!" Sarah cried, but the urgency in her voice was drowned in the rustle of the wind. The whole cemetery felt alive, as if the very dirt and stone were breathing, shifting, boiling with old secrets. Around them, the shadows merged and twisted, darting from gravestone to gravestone. Each step they took resonated with an unsettling thump, the earth swallowing their fears whole. Sarah's heart raced like a rabbit caught in a snare. The very air around her thickened, stinging her lungs. A sudden wind whipped around them, carrying whispers that seeped into her bones, chilling her to the core. "Leave, now," came a voice, soft and yet filled with an unmistakable urgency. It surrounded her, wrapping her in its ice-cold embrace. Instinct screamed at Sarah. She wanted to run back to the house where the walls felt like a sanctuary. But Lily, she'd become enchanted by the spectral dance. "They want us to know the secret. Don't you see, Mommy? They're friendly." Lily's eyes sparkled, reflecting the flickering light, her innocence a stark contrast to the chaos that threatened to consume them. "They're not friendly." Panic surged through Sarah. "You have to trust me." She grabbed Lily's arm and yanked her backward, the weight of despair pressing heavily on her chest. With one final glance at the phantoms that crowded around them, their faces twisted into eerie smiles, Sarah turned and bolted toward the crypt. The air grew heavier, pressing down as if the shadows themselves were formulating some sinister plan. "Why won't they let us go?" Raced through her frantic mind. The crypt towered ominously above her, beckoning, a dark maw ready to swallow them whole. Scraps of rain slashed at Sarah's face, every drop feeling like a warning, the graveyard shrieking at her to stop. Racing breathlessly, she scanned the darkness for any sign of an escape. Would they be trapped forever in this desolate expanse, subject to the will of restless entities? Lily yanked her hand free, twirling around, laughter bubbling up like water from a spring. "Mommy, they're just playing," she proclaimed, a wild glee in her voice that made Sarah's stomach churn. "Lily!" Her shout echoed through the gravestones. Fear wrestled with an overwhelming need to reach her child. The wraith-like figures pulsated closer, darkness wrapping around them. In a desperate bid, Sarah lunged for Lily, but the shadows surged forward, engulfing her child with an unnatural rush. Time blurred. Desperation anchored her feet. She could feel the cold seeping through her skin, threatening to freeze her in place. "Mommy!" The cry pierced through the veil of darkness, a desperate plea that sent a shock through Sarah's veins. "No!" With a surge of adrenaline, she pulled herself forward, casting her flashlight wildly in hopes of pushing back the incoming tide of shadows. But the crypt's entrance loomed ahead. It flickered with light, a beacon. What lay inside? Safety or an even deeper pit of despair? As she fought the shadows, a sudden realization struck her. It was not just the cemetery that held secrets. It was within her, too. "Come back, come back!" She howled, but her voice was lost in the cacophony around her. As darkness threatened to swallow them whole, a figure stepped from the shadows, tall and pallid, its lips curling into an unsettling smile. "You can find the truth if you're willing to pay the price." The words echoed in her head, spinning her world upside down. Did she dare face whatever lingered inside the crypt to save Lily? Every heartbeat thudded in her ears. Would she be left alone to deal with whatever lay ahead? Before she could respond, cold fingers wrapped tightly around her wrist, pulling her deeper into the darkness. The last flicker of the flashlight faded, leaving only the chilling darkness behind. What awaited them now? A truth buried within the cemetery's depths, or a final oblivion where the whispers would become their only company? Sarah felt the grip tighten around her wrist, an icy vice that sent shivers racing through her body. Her mind screamed for her to fight back, but as she struggled, panic wrapped around her like a shroud. What could be worse than the shadows conspiring against them? The figure loomed ahead, a specter of dread, eyes glowing in the dark like burning coals. Who are you?" she stammered, struggling to pull away, but the grip only hardened. All around them, the air was thick with tension, the whispers intensified, swirling faster, louder. They became a storm of chaotic voices, each full of commands, each a warning: "Join us, stay." The entity tilted its head, the smile almost friendly but the malice unmistakable. "I can help you find your daughter." The voice was soothing, inviting yet laced with a sinister undertone. She could hear the edge of a cruel laughter just beneath the surface. "Let me go." "Where's Lily?" Desperation clawed at her throat. The haunting thought of her daughter lost in the dark, dancing with shadows, twisted Sarah inside out. Every instinct told her to resist this phantom, yet a deeper fear lingered. What if the only path to Lily was through this chilling encounter? "Lily is here. She is safe, for now," it replied, gliding closer until its face was mere inches from her own. Shadows curled and whispered around them, a dark sea rising and crashing against her sanity. "All you need to do is accept the truth of this place." Refusing to show her fear, Sarah shot a defiant glare at the creature. "I'll never accept anything you say. Just let her go." Her voice trembled, but she forced the words out, anger igniting a fleeting spark of bravery. The figure's eyes flickered, the shadows momentarily retreating. "Every secret has a cost," it hissed. "Face it, or lose her, forever." At that moment, a flicker of movement caught her attention. In the periphery of dim light, she saw Lily. Her daughter twirled, caught in an ethereal dance, seemingly unfazed by the pandemonium unfolding. Time stretched and warped, mocking Sarah's frantic grasp on reality. A voice inside her echoed, "Why does she seem happy? What darkness has she unraveled? Marie doesn't want to hurt you, dear Sarah. She shows the way to those who seek knowledge," the figure continued, feigning sweetness that turned her stomach. "The cemetery breathes secrets. But to unlock them, sacrifices must be made." "Sacrifices?" Sarah echoed, her heart tumbling into the pit of dread. "What kind of sacrifices?" The shadows around her erupted in laughter, twisting her reality. "What are you willing to give? A memory? A fear? Or perhaps a piece of your soul?" Fight or flight battled within her, each option haunted by the darkness pressing closer. Did she dare bargain with this force for her daughter? The memory of Lily's laughter rang in her ears, a haunting tune blending with the whispers. "Enough. You can't have her," Sarah shouted, clenching her fists. The shadows recoiled slightly, as if affected by her resolve. With that brief glimmer of power, she summoned every ounce of courage remaining. "Show me." The world shifted. Darkness swirled, colors bleeding into each other, forming a dizzying vortex. Sarah felt herself being pulled into the center, emotions crashing around her like tempest waves. For a brief moment, she stood at the edge of a deep abyss, feeling the weight of every lost hope. Just as quickly, a sharp pain coursed through her wrist, drawing her back to reality. The figure leaned closer, its fading smile sinister. "Remember, Sarah. The truth always comes at a cost." In a split second, Sarah's vision cleared. She stood alone as the shadows dispersed, the ground trembling beneath her feet. But there, cradled in the remnants of darkness, was yet another figure, this one small, curled up, tightly bound in the suffocating bonds of the grave's power, Lily. "Mommy?" The soft voice echoed through the silence, filled with confusion but also an eerie calm. Sarah surged forward but the shadows flared, debilitating the air between them. "Stay back!" she shouted, fear lacing her words. What price would she pay to reach her daughter? This moment felt like a frail thread on the brink of snapping. Time slowed, a foreboding chill encased her heart as she stepped closer to the truth etched in those haunting shadows. And as she reached out, the darkness erupted, forcing her to confront the decision looming before her. What sacrifice would she make to reclaim her child? "Mommy!" The word echoed sharply in the darkness, tearing through Sarah's heart like a dagger. It was Lily's voice, yet it sounded so distant, so wrapped in shadows that it barely reached her. "Lily!" Sarah cried again, desperation coursing through her veins. She pushed against the oppressive air, fighting to close the gap between them. But the shadows twisted around her, cold and unyielding, gripping her ankles like chains. "Why are you so afraid, Sarah?" The entity cooed, a gleeful tremor vibrating in its voice. "Doesn't your daughter look happy? Just look at her." With effort, Sarah forced her eyes to Lily, who remained still, twirling slowly, almost entranced. There was something about the way she moved, a fluidity that felt impossible, as if gravity no longer mattered. "Lily, please come to me." But Lily only smiled, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It was a smile of innocence tainted by the shadows surrounding her. No. This couldn't be what happiness looked like. "Mommy, I'm dancing." Lily chimed, her voice carrying that same dark sweetness. "I'm playing. Marie is helping me." A chill swept through Sarah. Marie? The name felt familiar, like the resurfacing of a long-buried fear. She felt her mind racing through memories, hand brushing against something lost, but clarity escaped her like sand through her fingers. "Don't listen to them, Lily. Come back. Please." The entity's laughter rang sharp, slicing through the suffocating silence. "Oh, but why should she? In this world, there's no fear, only bliss." It leaned closer, breath like ice wrapping around Sarah's face. "You see, she has made a choice. A choice you must also make." Choice. Each word felt coated in dread. "What choice? I don't want any part of this." "Oh, but you're already entwined," it mocked, gesturing toward the maelstrom of shadows, swirling around them like a thick fog obscuring the truth. "To find Lily, you must accept the darker parts of yourself. Take a step into the shadows." "Never." The word burst from her lips, a raw protest against the darkness. "I want to become like you." With each syllable, the shadows pulsed as if enraged by her defiance. "You think you can fight it?" The specter hissed, fangs glinting in the dim light. "This power will consume you. Join the dance, surrender your doubts, and you may be reunited with your daughter." Desperation clawed at Sarah. She fought through the invading shadows, pushing past the whispers that sought to drown her thoughts. "What do I have to lose?" she murmured, her heart pounding in trepidation. Would facing her own fears save Lily, or doom them both? The ground trembled beneath her, and a pulse of energy shot through the air, forming into a vortex spiraling inward. "Just one simple sacrifice is all it takes, Sarah," the creature's voice urged, sweetly sinister. The very fabric of reality twisted with the dread of what was to come. "What will you give?" The darkness pulsed once more, beckoning, waiting. "I would give anything for her." Sarah bravely spat the words. But deep down, a freezing fear took root. Was she prepared to give any part of herself away? The thought of losing herself for Lily was terrifying, yet it settled into her mind like an unwanted seed. "Anything." The creature's voice trailed off, leaving an unsettling pause in the air. The shadows lurked closer, and Sarah found herself teetering on the precipice of an unspeakable choice. As the entity's eyes bore into hers, a dark truth flickered in her mind. "Mommy?" Lily's voice broke through once more, sounding more fragmented, more frightened than before. "Lily." Sarah's voice cracked under pressure. But at that moment, the shadows surged, crashing over her in waves, pulling her down into the depths of an unending void, a realm of lost hopes and forgotten dreams. The whispers promised everything: freedom, joy, power. But at what cost? As Sarah sank deeper, grappling with fear and resolve, she heard the haunting call of the darkness. You have to decide. In that chilling silence, with the weight of her choices pressing down on her heart, the urge to scream battled against the cooling grip of darkness closing in around her. What sacrifices truly lie ahead, and would she dare delve into the very depths of her own darkness to save her child? The shadows waited, eager to swallow her whole, as uncertainty gnawed at her soul. Sarah felt the chilling tendrils of darkness wrap around her, tightening with an eerie intimacy that made her skin crawl. The cries of her daughter echoed faintly but grew fainter as the shadows surrounded her, creating a cocoon of despair. It was as if she was descending into a nightmare from which there would be no awakening. "Lily!" She screamed again, a raw plea torn from her throat. The very air around her felt heavy, oppressive, thick with sulfur and the stench of decay, as if every lingering memory had suffocated beneath the blanket of shadows. "Why do you fight it?" The entity rasped, its voice swirling around her like smoke. "You're already trapped between choices. Just surrender never." Sarah spat through clenched teeth, fighting the despair that threatened to pull her under. As she wrestled with the suffocating darkness, fragments of her past began to seep into her mind, the mistakes, the failures, the guilt she couldn't shake. Each memory was a blade, slicing deeper into her resolve. Behind her, from that maelstrom of shadows, she heard a delighted giggle, a sound synonymous with her daughter but twisted. "Mommy, I'm not afraid. Marie is here." "No." The cold surge of dread wrapped tighter around Sarah's chest. The name, Marie, struck her like a bolt of lightning. An old friend who had once, startlingly, vanished, lost to the very darkness that now pursued her. "You stay away from her." The shadows rippled in amusement, and Sarah felt a wave of bitterness crash over her as remnants of the unloving world weighed heavily on her soul. "Your denial is entertaining, Sarah. The truth is, whether you like it or not, you've been called here to make a choice for your daughter and yourself. Stop it!" she shouted, feeling her voice break as anger flared. She had no time for games, every second pulled her further from Lily. "I won't give in." The weight of the entity's laughter pressed down like a physical force, wrapping around her heart. "Oh, but you have already given more than you know. You've already sacrificed pieces of yourself, fear, hope, love. Each gift brings you closer to us, closer to her." With a sudden surge of clarity, Sarah recognized the choice looming over her. It was not just about accepting darkness. She needed to challenge it, confront the pain she had shielded herself from for so long. "I will not be defined by my fears." Fueled by an instinctual drive, she lunged forward into the swirling shadows, each step sapping her strength but igniting a flicker of defiance. "Lily!" she screamed, as memories of their laughter and love ignited a blaze within. She would not turn away from her fears but embrace them, each one a part of her story, each one a thread pulling her towards the truth. "Mommy!" Lily's voice rose high above the cacophony now, genuine and clear. Sarah felt her daughter's warmth touch her like sunlight breaking through clouds. Suddenly, the ground beneath her shifted. Colors bled from the shadows, swirling into a vortex of light. An indescribable force thrust Sarah upward, back toward her daughter, but the grip of the shadows clawed fiercely, desperate to claim her. "Don't let go!" Lily cried, her voice cutting through the darkness, echoing the strength Sarah had thought lost. "We can fight together." Seeing her daughter and feeling that fierce love pulsing through her, Sarah grasped for it with everything she had. "I'm coming for you, Lily. Hold on tight." But just as she felt her fingers graze Lily's, the shadows surged violently, pulling back with a vengeance. "This isn't over, Sarah. You'll understand soon that darkness and light are but two sides of the same coin." With that, everything erupted into chaos. Brightness blurred into shifting shadows, and just as quickly as the light appeared, it vanished, leaving Sarah suspended, her heart pounding and a chilling sense of dread creeping back into her core. Everything felt like it was slipping. Was this the beginning or the end? Could she truly save Lily, or was she only widening the abyss? As the aftershocks of power rumbled all around, uncertainty sent a shiver racing down Sarah's spine. The truth awaited, hidden in the darkness, eager to be unveiled, but what if it was too terrible to bear? The darkness twisted like a living entity around Sarah, breathing, taunting her with every pulse of despair. She felt suspended, caught between two realms, one of flickering hope and shimmering light, the other, pulsing shadows that beckoned her to plunge deeper into their cold embrace. Lily! She gasped again, panic darting through her like a lightning bolt. Every beat of her heart echoed against the taut atmosphere around her. Was this a cruel trick of the shadows? Or was it a desperate call answered by genuine hope? Whispers crawled through the air, swirling like insects around her ears. You thought you could escape, didn't you? The sinister voice hung heavy, dripping with mockery, like a noose tightening around her thoughts. But every choice has its price. Sarah clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms until they hurt. I'll never give in to you. She shouted, but the echo of her voice felt hollow, as if the very darkness were absorbing her determination. Ah, the brave mother, it hissed, thinking only with her heart. But how will you protect her when you don't even know the truth of your past? The shadows shimmered, swirling into eerie shapes that danced just out of sight. Images burst into her mind, flashes of better times, laughter intertwined with grief. Her and Lily, their faces beaming with unburdened joy. Marie's voice had once echoed warmth, spilling over in moments of unity. But the past was tainted, she realized. It had been cracked, revealing the ugly truths beneath. As the memories rushed forward, she saw Marie's eyes, the same innocence that Lily carried now, and a creeping chill snaked up Sarah's spine. What had happened that day? She's gone, isn't she? The thought gnawed at her. Was the entity holding her friend captive, her fate entwined with the darkness lurking in every corner? Look around you, Sarah, the entity murmured, intoxicatingly persuasive. Your failures include letting them go, family, friends, all because of your fears. No. Sarah shrieked, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. She felt the weight of shadows creeping closer, as if feeding off her panic. Marie, didn't choose this? I didn't choose this. Red-hot resentment burned in her chest, and it ignited a primal instinct. You will not take my daughter. She roared, the sound exploding from her as her love surged against the suffocating darkness. Images of her daughter's laughter surged back, attacking her fear with bright splashes of color. With a newfound strength, she thrust herself forward, diving into the swirling shadows and embracing the chaos. Fight back. A voice inside her urged, a memory of Marie, reminding her of the bond that still connected them, echoing with hope instead of despair. She remembered her friend's laughter, the sunlight that had always found them, cutting through heavy clouds. Together, Lily and I are stronger. Sarah declared fiercely, struggling against tendrils that coiled around her legs, pulling her back. She had to believe there was still light left to seize, that love could pierce through the bindings binding them both. In her heart, she could almost see it, a door flickering just beyond the brink of shadow. Lily. She called again, desperation lacing her voice, but then the darkness swelled violently in response, like a storm breaking loose. The door you seek leads to blood, to loss, to the darkest depths of yourself, it warned, its breath hot against her skin. Can you bear the truth, Sarah? Wind howled, sharply piercing through her resolve. The shadows tightened their grip, threatening to pull her back. What truth? She panted, dread coiling in her gut tighter than ever. What do you want from me? In the haunting stillness that followed, the entity's laughter morphed into a low growl, reverberating like thunder in her ears. Everything. And then, just before she succumbed to despair once more, a flicker of light tugged at the edge of the shadows, a narrow crack revealing a glimpse of hope. Sarah felt her heart race. If it was truly there, she needed to reach beyond her fears. But before she could launch toward it, a resonating crack split the air. The darkness trembled, and shadows twisted into long, grasping fingers. They reached out, desperate and eager, threatening to snatch the glimmering hope away. What if Sarah hesitated, breath catching in her throat? What if I'm unworthy? And amid that uncertainty, the crack of light flickered, as if waiting for her answer. The air felt thick, electric, as the crack of light pulsed like a heartbeat, relentless and demanding. Fear gripped Sarah, icy tendrils wrapping around her spine as she hesitated. The shadows clawed at her, swirling menacingly, the entity's whispers now a guttural growl. You know what must be done, it taunted. You must choose. Choose. She echoed, confusion mingling with terror. The voices melded into one overwhelming force, urging her to surrender. But within her, something ignited a flicker of defiance. Show me the truth. Sarah yelled, the sound echoing like thunder against the heavy darkness. Instantly, the shadows curled, a silken hush washing over her. For a fleeting moment, the world stood still, as if even darkness felt the weight of her words. Then, the crack of light expanded, illuminating a swirling image. It wasn't a doorway, it was a reflection, twisting memories that morphed into a hazy scene. The sun broke through dismal clouds, casting an otherworldly glow. She could see a younger version of herself, laughter intertwined with Marie's teasing as they darted through fields, their eyes alight with youthful promise. But the laughter faded, replaced by a chilling realization. She watched helplessly as the warmth melted into shadows, the light around her distorted by an insatiable darkness, consuming every joyful memory. No, no! She yelled, straining to pull free from the shadows that pressed against her. This isn't how it ends. I refuse to lose her. Suddenly, the image shifted violently, morphing into a scene she both feared and yearned to understand, their final moment together. Panic gripped Sarah as she watched Marie's face twisted in agony, shadows wrapping around her like chains. The damp earth swallowed her words of love, her desperate pleas echoing. And you did nothing. The entity's voice swelled, triumphant and cruel. You let her go. No. Sarah screamed, shaking with the revelation. You don't get to take that from me. With a surge of fury, she flung her arm toward the flickering crack, forcing herself to reach it, to tear through the veil separating her from the memory. The shadows writhed angrily, tightening around her limbs. You are bound by your choices, Sarah. They shrieked. Resist, and your daughter's fate seals with yours. Lily is my strength. I will not let you decide my fate. Each word was a battle cry, each breath infused with her desperate will to fight back against the encroaching dark. She envisioned her daughter's face, innocent and filled with light, the very essence that fueled her determination. The chaos swirled around her, the conflict reaching a fever pitch. Each second felt like a life, a struggle against an engulfing storm threatening to raze every trace of hope she clung to. Yet, she found an opening. Her love, pure and unwavering, with one ferocious thrust, she rushed toward the crack of light, her heart pounding in rhythm with every fluttering flicker that beckoned her forward. I choose life. I choose love. As she broke through the veil and felt the warmth envelop her, darkness writhed behind, a furious tempest howling in frustration. The crack of light bursting forth illuminated her surroundings. She stood among twisted trees, gnarled limbs reaching up like skeletal fingers. But before her lay a path, shrouded in mist and shadows, a call to face whatever lay ahead. Then a voice cleaved the air, a whisper piercing her thoughts. But what if the darkness still has its hold? Sarah's heart dropped. Doubt knotted in her stomach. Before she could respond, a piercing scream echoed through the mist, slicing through the air. She froze. It sounded like Lily. What's happening? She gasped, dread clawing its way up anew. In this haunted place, uncertainty danced dangerously close. What awaited her on that path? With trembling hands, she steeled herself. I'm coming, Lily. But as she took the first step, the whispers returned, cold and mocking. Do you really believe you can save her? Each step Sarah took felt heavy, as if the ground beneath her was resisting her journey. The mist swirled, choking her breath with a damp, cold embrace. Thoughts of Lily screamed in her mind, each one heavier than the last. Where was her daughter? What was happening? Mom! A distant cry shattered the stillness, breaking through the waves of fog. It was Lily's voice, but it trembled, filled with terror. Lily! Sarah shouted, her voice breaking against the oppressive quiet. She pushed forward, heart racing, fear clawing at her throat with every stride. Darkness embraced her, shadows slithering across the ground like wretched snakes. The trees loomed around her like ancient sentinels, watching her plight, their branches creaking as if whispering secrets long buried. But those secrets were not comforting, they were laced with malice, intensifying the dread pooling in her gut. As she hurried along the meandering path, another scream echoed. It twisted in the air like a wisp of smoke, haunting, desperate. "Help me!" it begged. The voice morphed into something unrecognizable, layered with anguish and hopelessness. "No, no, please, not another cruel trick," Sarah muttered, unwilling to look at the twisted shadows that danced nearby. But her heart thudded louder, an insistent reminder that she was not alone, that something was stalking her beneath the layers of mist. Suddenly, the ground trembled under her feet. She stumbled, grappling for balance, eyes darting. An unnatural laughter bubbled from all around as if the shadows themselves were mocking her struggle. "Turn back, Sarah," they taunted, "you think you can save what was never yours to keep." "Shut up," she screamed, anger erupting through the horror, forcing her to press on. But doubt seeped into her veins. What if it was right? What if this journey led her deeper into the abyss? "Mom!" Lily's piercing voice reached her once more frantic, more pained. Each cry twisted in her heart like a knife. She could feel the warmth of her daughter reaching out, a tether she couldn't sever. "Lily!" Sarah shouted again, desperation pouring from her lips like a prayer. She pushed forward, heart hammering against the fear. The mist thickened, suffocating her resolve. Just ahead, the path widened into a clearing, illuminated by ghostly luminescence. Figures shimmered in the fog, lost, sorrowful spirits caught between worlds. Their faces flickered with unfulfilled longing, eyes hollow as they stared into the void of their despair. Frozen by the sight, Sarah felt their sorrow wrap around her like a shroud. "What happened to you?" she breathed, a chill creeping along her spine, every instinct screaming for her to run. Suddenly, one of the figures stepped forward, revealing a visage marred by loss and regret. "We sought what was never meant for us," it whispered, voice echoing like the wind among branches. "And now we wander, trapped. Is that what I face?" Sarah stammered. "Is that my fate?" The figure's eyes darkened, hollow pools of warning. "Only you can decide. Choose wisely." With horror spiraling in her throat, Sarah felt the ground shake again. The mist roiled beneath her, morphing into a sea of darkness, swallowing everything whole. The shadows clung tighter, pulling her down, whispering promises of power, vengeance, and urgency. "Do you want to save her?" the entity taunted, its breath cold against her ear. "Give in, and reclaim what was taken." "No," she cried, pulling herself back, fighting the allure of despair. I want to save her." But as she said it, the shadows pressed in closer, wrapping around her arms and legs, holding her against the ground. "What's your true cost, Sarah?" the shadows hissed. "What do you truly treasure?" Just then, the ground split open, revealing a dark chasm filled with a cacophony of screams, voices of those lost forever. "Lily!" she screamed, peering into the void. But before she could leap forward, a rush of black tendrils shot from the chasm, wrapping around her throat, squeezing the air from her lungs. And just like that, the darkness whispered, "This is only the beginning." Gravity pulled Sarah deeper into the grip of the shadows. Panic shot through her, clawing at her chest. The tendrils tightened around her throat, cutting off her air, churning her vision into a haze of swirling blackness. Fear surged through her like a tidal wave. Was she truly going to be swallowed alive into this abyss? No. She gasped, feeling the last words die on her lips as darkness crept further into her consciousness. But then, she heard it again, a fleeting echo of Lily's name, barely discernible amidst the cacophony of torment. It pierced through the suffocating fog, sharp and clear, igniting a flicker of hope deep within her. "Lily!" She managed to cry, forcing the words out between ragged breaths. I'm coming. Suddenly, with a violent jerk, the tendrils released her. Sarah fell to the ground, gasping for precious air, the fog swirling around her like a predator, sensing her weakness. Desperately, she pushed herself up, hands trembling against the cold, hard earth. The chasm still yawned wide, but now a soft light emitted from its depths, flickering and casting long shadows that danced in the air like spirits awaiting escape. It beckoned her, promising a way forward, a portal to her daughter. Mom! The scream was more urgent now, bursting through the veil of mist. Help me! With renewed vigor, Sarah stumbled to her feet, her heart pounding like a war drum in her ears. Driven by instinct, she moved toward the light. The shadows recoiled, hissing as she approached, reluctant to release their suffocating hold. Leave her, Sarah, they coiled around her legs, pulling her back. You don't know what you seek. But with every desperate step, more clarity returned. She had made promises sworn to protect her daughter, to bring her home. The thought alone pushed back the creeping dread. She had to reach Lily, the cries spiraled around her, multi-layered voices twisting her thoughts. Each one felt familiar, echoing with memories of nights spent reading stories by the fire, laughter shared at the dinner table. Were these fragments of lost souls? Were they begging for her to join them? Or were they warning her? Stay away! She shouted defiantly, shaking off their chilling whispers. The soft glow intensified ahead, illuminating a figure that stood at the edge of the chasm. It was a girl, small, frail, with disheveled hair that appeared to float, unaffected by gravity. Sarah's heart squeezed. The resemblance was uncanny. Lily! She screamed again, sprinting toward her, her own feet feeling like lead, but as she closed in, the girl's face twisted with anguish. Mom, stop! You can't! Before Sarah could grasp the warning, the ground trembled violently below her, the soft light flickered harshly, and the shadows roared in fury. The chasm widened, threatening to swallow everything. It's a trap! The entity hissed, its voice echoing like crackling thunder. Embrace the darkness, and you shall have her. No! Sarah fought against the swirling chaos, fear colliding with fury. I want to lose you, Lily. But Lily's figure began to fade, merging with the shadows, her screams intertwining with the darkness that desired to pull Sarah in. Grabbing the edge of the collapsing ground, Sarah felt a split second of despair. No, not again. As the weight of the black mist pressed down, Sarah made a decision. In a last act of defiance, she reached into the light, reaching for her daughter, even as the ground beneath her cracked open. Fight it, Lily. Come back to me. The shadowy tendrils recoiled and hissed in rage, creating a cacophony of chaos. And just when it felt like all hope was lost, a blinding light erupted from the chasm, pushing back the darkness with burning intensity. Sarah's skin prickled at the radiant energy, and within it, a singular scream rang clear. Mom! And then silence. The world turned white before her eyes. What had just happened? Did she lose everything, or had something more sinister just begun? As the light began to fade, leaving behind fragments of darkness that flickered like embers, one thought struck Sarah: could she save her daughter before the darkness reclaimed its due? And the whimpering cries of lost souls echoed softly as the shadows whispered once more, you can't escape what's already claimed. The brightness of the explosion faded slowly, a miasma of light giving way to the lingering ominous shadows that twisted around her. Sarah's heart raced, each pulse echoing in her ears like a warning bell. Lily! She cried again, a desperate plea that spiraled into the void. But the silence mocked her. The shadows lingered, flickering on the edges of her vision like dark breath, curling into her thoughts, tempting her to surrender. Where was Lily? The question clawed at her, a relentless ache tightening around her chest. Face the truth, Sarah, the entity whispered, its voice a chilling caress, reverberating through the very marrow of her bones. You can't outrun the darkness. It's part of you now. No. It's not who I am. She shouted, setting fire to the fog of self-doubt that threatened to ensnare her mind. The light she had grasped for the hope she had fought tooth and nail for was still within reach. All around her, the darkness flickered, swirling in a tempest of taunts and jeers. But her heart pulsed with a fierce, steadfast beat, fueled by a mother's love that defied the suffocating grip of despair. "You won't take her!" She yelled defiantly, searching the horizon for the figure of her daughter. The shadows shimmered, revealing fleeting glimpses of Lily among the swirling mists, her laughter ringing in the air like a haunting melody that only deepened Sarah's resolve. "I choose her. I choose to remember the light we shared." In that moment, Sarah could feel the warmth rising from her heart, a glow that dispelled the creeping cold. She reached into her own soul, breaking the shackles of fear and regret that had tethered her to doubt. Memories flooded her. Lily's laughter, the simple warmth of holding her hand, the countless nights filled with stories, giggles, and love. The shadows recoiled, trembling at the force of her illumination. The entity stirred, annoyance rippling through its form. "You think you can conquer me with memories? With love?" It hissed, a plea buried in its sneer. But the shadow's objections were drowned by Sarah's fierce call, "Lily." The name exploded from her lips, resonating with a power that shook the very fabric of the shadowy realm. Then, from the depths of that entropic chaos, a brilliant light surged forth, a golden beam cutting through the sorrow like a sword. At the heart of it was Lily, her figure sparkling with hope, spinning beneath that radiant glow. "Mommy!" she cried, her arms reaching out, her eyes the purest embodiment of innocence. The shadows that swirled around her seemed to hesitate, momentarily paralyzed by the light that threatened to obliterate their grasp. "No!" the entity roared, but its fury fell on deaf ears. With every ounce of hope remaining, Sarah surged toward her daughter. The shadows flared wildly, swirling around her, desperate to reclaim their hold, but they fizzled against the brilliance radiating from her daughter. "Lily!" With every step, Sarah felt the weight lifting, the chains that had bound her to despair crumbling to dust. She dashed through the veil of darkness, wrapping her arms around her daughter just as they were swallowed in a blinding flash of light. Time ceased to exist in that moment. She felt nothing but the sheer bliss of her daughter's warmth against her. The familiar weight of love pressed tightly against her heart, pushing back the fragments of the past that lurked in her mind like ghosts. The world dimmed slightly as the brilliance receded, revealing the crooked trees and crumbling gravestones of the cemetery glowing under the moonlight. They were back, all at once, the shadows retreating as if chased away by the dawn. "Mommy! We did it!" Lily beamed, eyes wide with wonder, and all Sarah could do was nod, overwhelmed with relief and love, but between them, the whispers of their journey hung still, lingering like smoke in the air. "You must always remember the power of choice," echoed the remnants of the shadows, now mere memories fluttering in the wind. "Light and dark exist within you." As they stood together, Sarah tightened her grip around Lily, feeling the thud of her tiny heart against her own. That tangled truth didn't terrify her, it empowered her. Together, Sarah replied, having forged a bond stronger than fear. They began to walk home, the twisted paths of the cemetery now a bridge to their own fresh beginning. With every step, Sarah felt the weight of the past dissipate, replaced by a killer combination of resolve and hope. They would face tomorrow, armed with the lessons of darkness and the brightness of their own light together. "I'm so proud of you, Lily," Sarah murmured, heart swelling as she glanced down at her daughter, who danced happily beside her. "Let us never go back there," Lily giggled, her laughter ringing with the sound of freedom, as they left the cemetery behind. And as they walked away from the shadows, both mother and daughter knew one truth: they would create their own light from the dark, crafting a story that could never be unwritten. So if you enjoyed this conclusion, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. And I mean it, smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What do you think will happen next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Let us keep the light shining together.